Has no power to block legislation extending euthanasia as a life-ending option for children. Are we on the verge of another Cold War? A Ukrainian Catholic bishop says the conflict in Ukraine could lead us there. Pope Francis spent Valentine's Day with thousands of engaged couples. We'll take you to this moving celebration of love. And he calls himself the Pope's maestro. This close friend of Blessed John Paul II looks forward to the canonization in April. This is EWTN News Nightly for Tuesday, February 18th. 2014. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Brian Patrick, and again for Colleen, looking at news now. Belgian kids will soon be able to seek assisted suicide. That country's parliament has added children to Belgium's euthanasia law. Jason Calvi introduces us tonight to an American family that shows another way to handle the difficulties of a sick child.
John Paul Kilner lived on this earth for 14 short months.
I used to come up to his bed and he would always smile at me.
Today the Kilner kids play without the brother they now call a saint.
I remember that. Yeah. It's your brother, so you miss him.
John Paul died 1 year ago Thursday. Spinal muscular atrophy made his muscles weaker each day.
How someone so incapable of doing anything could communicate so well the joy and the beauty of life.
But now the Belgian House of Representatives voted 86 to 44 to add children to the country's 2002 euthanasia law. The law says those suffering from serious and incurable diseases caused by illness or accident can seek assisted suicide. Jacqueline Harriman supported the bill.
It is difficult to be happy about a vote that concerns children who are suffering, but I am satisfied that it was possible to have that debate and that it was possible for the Belgian parliament to have the courage to depenalize euthanasia also for children.
Many fought the proposal, including Catholics and the co-founder of Euthanasia Stop.
A warning bell to other countries which might be tempted to legalize euthanasia. Because once the step has been made, it's very difficult to prevent all kinds of extension to take place.
Back in the States,
we are inspired by him putting the good fight when things are hard.
The Kilners tell of the graces that came through their suffering.
But all those pale in comparison to the wonderful, wonderful gift and time that we had with him.
Jason Calvi, EWTN News Nightly.
People around the world are expressing outrage over this law on social media. Certainly the Catholic Church has opposed it. Agnes King joining us from World Youth Alliance Europe on Skype from Brussels. This is a group that promotes the dignity of the human person and has been fighting this law on the ground since it was first proposed. Agnes, what is the cultural climate in Belgium right now? This is a shocking law that apparently passed overwhelmingly.
People in Belgium are also shocked that this law has passed. People who have been fighting it have been very shocked. However, in terms of the cultural climate, euthanasia is not a new concept. The new concept is that it's now applicable to children.
So what exactly does this law change there in Brussels?
Well, this new law removes the age restrictions for euthanasia. Up until the couple days ago, anyone from the age of 18 could access euthanasia, but now euthanasia is accessible to children.
King Philippe is Catholic. Has he had anything to say about this?
He hasn't made any statements, and he doesn't actually have the right to make a statement, just as he doesn't have the right to refuse to sign the law.
So in America, if the president disagrees with legislation that's passed, the president has the right to veto that. That is not the case there in Belgium, I take it.
No, in Belgium, the king is part of the executive power, but this is completely separated from the legislative branch of government.
So it sounds like this is a done deal. What can people do about this now? Anything?
Yes, I think that you will see a big change in Belgium. I think this will be a huge wake-up call. I know that World Youth Alliance is working on it and will continue to work on it to change the culture. And I think that people in Belgium have taken it as a great wake-up call.
All right, Agnes King, the World Youth Alliance. Just give us a brief snapshot of your group, if you would, before we say goodbye.
World Youth Alliance is a global coalition of young people based in 6 countries around the world, and we work to promote human dignity and policy, culture, and education.
All right. Agnes King, the World Youth Alliance in Europe, we appreciate you joining us by Skype tonight. Now, some of the other stories our EWTN News Nightly team has been covering in today's world. More violent clashes erupted in Kiev, Ukraine this week between anti-government protesters and government supporters. At least 4 people are reportedly dead today after clashes in the streets. This weekend, several were injured in similar attacks. Protesters dressed in camouflage were seen beating pro-government activists with baseball bats and throwing fireworks. Ukraine's security service officials today vowed to restore order and end the street clashes. The violence has been ongoing in the Eastern European country since November, when Ukraine's president rejected a political and economic treaty with the European Union and sought a bailout loan from Russia. The head of the Ukrainian Catholic Church is warning that the conflict in the Ukraine may have us on the verge of a new Cold War. Wyatt Spencer covered his visit to the U.S. and is joining us with that story. Wyatt?
Brian, the patriarch of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, says the fighting in the country is about, quote, the future of democracy in Europe. He says that the U.S. and European governments should have a proactive policy towards a conflict that, at its heart, is a political one that goes back decades. On one side is Russia and the other is the European Union. He says Russia is acting aggressively on its neighbor. The Ukraine used to be part of the Soviet Union, and has, since its breakup, Russia has tried to influence the country's policies. It's a conflict that many had been praying for months.
Son and Holy Spirit, amen. In the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, amen.
Everyday Deacon Walter Pozichnik offers a prayer for people in the Ukraine and for an end to the violence and corruption. Pozichnik is studying to be a priest at St. Josephat Seminary. It's part of the Ukrainian Catholic Church, an Eastern Rite tradition that keeps its unique customs while remaining in full communion with the Pope. His goal? To unite with the people in the Ukraine in prayer.
The priests in the square, not only are they going and saying liturgies with the people and praying with the people, but they also pray for the police, with the police and the military, and also for the leaders of the country.
A little over a week ago, the Patriarch visited the seminary and Holy Family Shrine in D.C. Father Robert Hitchens, the rector, says the church's leader warned Americans that the conflict in the Ukraine is escalating.
And he shared that in Ukraine right now, that there have been over 60 people that have just literally vanished and disappeared without a trace, and that some 1,000 people that have been imprisoned for what we would consider a basic constitutional right here to peacefully assemble.
For some serving here in the seminary, it's a scene that's played out before. Father Wasil Karuk was born in the Ukraine when it was part of the Soviet Union. He's seen a government that restricts the freedoms of its people and the church. Many of his family and friends are still in the country.
I worry very much because my heart is divided too, because even though I'm now American citizen, but still, you know, that's the country where I grew up.
Father Wasil hopes Western governments will help politically to end the fighting, but he also hopes individual Catholics will spiritually help end the conflict by praying in Christian unity. And it's not just Christian groups. The Patriarch says Christian, Jews, and Muslims have all worked together to try to keep the protests peaceful, but he says the danger is still there as this conflict continues. In Washington, Wyatt Spencer, EWTN News Nightly.
A Pennsylvania woman and her newlywed husband have admitted they killed a man they met through Craigslist. Miranda Barber said she also killed more than 20 others from Alaska to North Carolina while she was in a satanic cult. Local police say they are, quote, seriously concerned. They have alerted other jurisdictions, including the FBI. That agency says it is willing to offer any help requested. A Florida man convicted of attempted murder in what's being called the loud music killing. In 2012, Michael Dunn shot into a car filled with teenagers after an argument arose over the loud music. 17-year-old Jordan Davis was killed in that shooting. Dunn could face up to 60 years in prison following the conviction, but the jury couldn't decide on a first-degree murder charge. For many, this verdict again raises the question of self-defense and race in Florida, 7 months after George Zimmerman was acquitted in another case. A federal judge in Virginia has overturned that state's ban on so-called same-sex marriage. The judge called the voter-approved ban unconstitutional, saying the phrase, "we the people," is becoming more inclusive. The case is being appealed to a circuit court, so the order to allow weddings of same-sex couples won't go into effect until there is a ruling on that appeal. Virginia would be the first southern state to allow so-called gay marriage. Dense fog has been throwing off the Olympic schedule. That didn't stop two Americans from winning the U.S. its first ever gold medal in ice dancing. Merrill Davis and Charlie White have been a couple on and off the ice for 17 years, and it really showed in their ice dancing. Also this weekend, the U.S. men's hockey team beat Russia and Slovenia to complete a three-game undefeated streak. They'll play for a spot in the semifinals on Wednesday. Well, you could say it's all about perspective. In Wisconsin, an extended cold snap has gone from burden to blessing. Temperatures near zero have allowed snow crystals and rare blue ice formations to persist long past their usual melting time.
Word has spread and people are coming out in droves, and it's amazing because it's so cold.
An unprecedented 35,000 hikers trekked across frozen Lake Superior to visit these ice caves. With features like ice tentacles and columns that pour water, it's no wonder. It's every kid's dream, a showroom, 7 football fields long, filled with toys. Toy makers and buyers are debuting and testing the hottest toys of 2014 at the American International Toy Fair in New York City this week. With 100 countries represented, there are classic toys as well as educational and interactive ones. That fair ends on Wednesday. An annual carnival leading to Mardi Gras is bringing zombies and masked partiers to the streets and canals of Venice. The 2014 edition of the carnival is dedicated to the theme Fantastic Nature, Marvel and Fairy Tale. For the first time, events will be held in that city's famous Arsenal shipyard. On opening night, even boats were in costume during an aquatic showdown. More than 20,000 lovebirds filled St. Peter's Square for a special Valentine's Day. The Holy Father gave advice to these engaged couples. He said a good marriage depends on 3 words: please, thanks, and sorry. One couple who was part of this event told us what it was like.
It was fantastic. Constance and I are both converts to Catholicism, and so to begin our marriage, well, a bit before our marriage, at the heart of the church in front of so many Catholics from around the world, and with the Pope was just fantastic because it's like coming home.
Pope Francis is expected to speak more about marriage at a meeting on the family coming up in October. Tensions are high in Venezuela again tonight as protesters, including many students, are taking to the streets. Anti-government demonstrators have been clashing with police and pro-government forces in recent days. 4 people have died in this violence. Now the locals fear more violence. The protests come just a day after President Nicolas Maduro gave 3 U.S. embassy officials 48 hours to leave the country. He claims the diplomats were supporting plots to topple his socialist government. The U.S. has denied that. The unrest is being fueled by hardships that include rampant crime, 56% inflation, and shortages of basic goods. We're joined on EWTN News Lately by Dr. Juan Jose Dabu, the CEO of the Dabu Partnership and former managing director of the World Bank. Dr. Dabu, good to have you with us.
Thank you for the invitation, Brian.
You have many years of experience in government, not a member of a political party, but you know the insides of government. As we look at the arrest today of the opposition leader, Leopoldo Lopez, who says that it's worth it to go to jail if it does something to awaken Venezuela to the corruption, to the disaster, the economic disaster after 15 years. Is he right?
I think he's right. It's a peaceful demonstration against weapons and against people in the government who has taken over most institutions within the country. So when you do not have your way of expressing your thoughts, when you have unemployment levels of the dimension that you described, close to 58%, when you have inflation close to 200%, this means that people are in need. And they are going to take any actions within the law that allows them to express their opinions. This has been one of those such very critical actions.
Students have really jumped in. They're putting internet video out there. They're asking for prayers for Venezuela, hashtagging pray for Venezuela. Why are students so frustrated?
Because there are no opportunities. They do not see opportunities in the horizon. they are not able to be innovative and creative. Close to 15,000 companies have been shut down by the government. There is no freedom of expression. There is no open media, no open press. So this is boiling up. And usually, when you see, for example, the Arab Spring, or you see other parts of the world, including some of the countries in Central America, like my country, El Salvador, whenever you shut down students or the middle class, revolutions happen. And this is likely to happen in Venezuela. A civil war is likely to happen.
Quickly, the president met with Pope Francis in June. How do you think experts on Latin America see that now in light of what's going on?
Well, I go back to the time when John Paul II actually came to Central America during the war and actually pointed his finger at a priest cardinal in Nicaragua because he was misbehaving. So for me, it's not a surprise for a man of good heart to meet with bad people, to actually try to convert them. We never know what happens in their private meetings, but the signals are important. And this was a chance for Maduro to decide to go on the right direction. He apparently didn't. He has chosen the evil direction. And this, I think, is going to come back and haunt him.
This is a developing story. We thank you for your insight and look forward to having you back.
Thank you, Brian.
Coming up, the latest on the 8 cardinals who are advising the Holy Father on reform. And we'll meet a close friend of Blessed John Paul II who calls himself the Pope's Maestro as we begin a special series, Saints for Today.
The destination is inspiration on part 2 of the 6-part miniseries, The Faithful Traveler in the Holy Land. Host Diana von Glahn continues her Holy Land experience with a tour of the Church of St. John the Baptist, Bethlehem's Church of the Nativity, the Shepherd's Fields, and shares the history of Jerusalem's temple and city walls. Discover the art and architecture, the history and tradition in the land of Christ's birth. Part 2 of The Faithful Traveler in the Holy Land, here on the Global Catholic Network, EWTN. Don't wait another minute. Now is the time to make your plans for the EWTN Family Celebration in Vancouver. On Saturday, April 5th, we'll be in Vancouver, British Columbia, celebrating this year's theme, Evangelization, a journey that starts at home. This is your chance to meet your favorite EWTN TV hosts in person. Marcus Grodi, Father James Mallon, Father John Horgan, the Friars, and more. We'll have inspirational talks, Holy Mass and Confession, Family Corner. Plus, you can be part of a live taping of The Journey Home. And best of all, it's free. Find out more by logging on to EWTN.ca. The 2014 Family Celebration, Saturday, April 5th in Vancouver, British Columbia. We'll see you there. Tonight on Mother Angelica Live Classics, how can we become more aware of how our conscience is a guiding force in our lives? Join Mother as she tells us how to examine our conscience so that we can make a good confession. That's on the next Mother Angelica Live Classics, only on EWTN.
It's good to have you with us for this Tuesday edition of EWTN News Nightly. I'm Brian Patrick, joined by our Rome correspondent, Alan Holdren, who's at the Vatican. And Alan, we know that Pope Francis has named 8 cardinals from around the world, including Boston's Sean O'Malley, as his closest advisors. They're meeting there in Rome this week. What are they discussing?
Well, this week, Brian, they're discussing the economic affairs of the Holy See. In layman's terms, this just means money management. They've had commissions look into the way that the Vatican spends money through its different departments, and also through the Vatican Bank, which is the Institute of Religious Works. They've given these results to the Pope, and they've also offered proposals as to how the Vatican can best manage its money.
Well, they certainly wasted no time in beginning to look at possible reforms there. Talk a little bit, too, about the consistory of cardinals that will meet to discuss family.
Yeah, that's right. On Thursday and Friday of this week, ahead of Saturday's ceremony to create new cardinals, around 200 cardinals from all over the world going to be here in the Vatican to discuss the family. Now, this is ahead of next October's Synod for the Family, which is 2 weeks of meetings. They want to kind of take a look at the issue before they sit down and really talk about it in depth. So there's going to be a cardinal there speaking, giving a keynote speech, and he's going to be talking about the gospel of the family to kind of lead discussions, and every cardinal can chip in after that for whatever he wants to say.
And kind of a quick personal note about Pope Francis. I hear that he is renewing his Argentinian passport.
That's right. We heard today in a briefing in the Holy See, they were talking about the cardinals, but this came up, that last Friday a group came from Argentina, from the Ministry of the Exterior. They came to give the Pope a new ID card, take his picture, update his information, and he'll be getting it next week.
All right, Alan Holdren joining us from the Vatican. The countdown to the canonizations of John Paul II and John the 23rd has now begun. The two popes will become saints on Divine Mercy Sunday, April 27th. So today we launch our Saints for Today series. We look at the two men ahead of the big day and the people they impacted. We begin with Sir Gilbert Levine, who's known as the Pope's Maestro. Maestro Levine was conductor and friend to John Paul II for nearly 20 years. He'll be conducting a concert to honor both John Paul II and John the 23rd in May right here in Washington.
He knighted me, and I feel that I am, although I don't need to because the world doesn't need him defended, that I am carrying on that mission. I feel it as an enormously important part of what the gift that he gave me and the understanding of spirituality, of resonance that I would never have had if I didn't have the relationship with John Paul. And to think that millions, billions of people around the world share that veneration is incredible. This is not the end of this concert, it's the beginning. It is the beginning of our understanding of the gift that John Paul has given all of us on this earth. I thought it was also brilliant, actually, to canonize both John the 23rd and John Paul II together. They are saints for the world, because everyone, no matter what religion, no matter what background, will find in them people who are reaching out to embrace them. And this concert is going to be free in the spirit of Francis. Everyone should come. This concert on May 5th to celebrate the canonizations of John Paul and John the 23rd will be free. Of course it will be free. In the age of Francis, of course it will be free.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, male and female are just two of the more than 50 gender options now included in Facebook profiles. We'll talk about it.
Here's a look at the new series beginning next month on EWTN. Dr. Scott Hahn reveals our Lord in his Eucharistic form, as found in the New Testament in Consuming the Word. And Sister Joan Noreen shows how the Eucharist brings the light of Christ into the world in Eucharistic Journey in the New Evangelization. Arm yourself against sin as Father Robert Spitzer provides weapons of strategic reason and ethics in defense of God's likeness. And fine-tune your temple of the Lord as Father James Mallon is your personal trainer in cross training. EWTN favorite Father Charles Connor examines essential church teachings in Grab Your Catechism. Father Brian Milady and Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers explore priests and deacons, ministers of mercy. Vernon Robertson offers insight into helping those who have strayed from the faith and how to pray for sons and daughters and loved ones. And prepare the kids for a journey through time as they'll learn the Gospels and Catholic traditions firsthand in My Time with Jesus. New episodes for next month include more sacred musical works with In Concert, hosted by Jackie Leary Warsaw. Fathers John Trigilio and Ken Briganti surf the web to answer questions about the faith in Web of Faith 2.0. Janet Binkovic continues to explore spiritual femininity on Women of Grace. And biblical scholar Frances Hogan is back for a second season of St. Luke's Gospel. You'll see all this and more beginning next month on EWTN.
Facebook users may notice a new feature on this social media website. Male and female are not the only gender choices anymore. In fact, the social media giant has added a new option that lists about 50 different terms people can use to identify their gender. Some examples: transgender, transfluid, and intersex. Users can also choose the pronoun they'd like to be referred to publicly.
Facebook wants to allow people to be able to express their genuine, authentic selves on the site, and we want them to express their whole selves.
The new options come after years of lobbying from some Facebook members. It follows changes made by other sites, including Flickr and Google+. Joining us now is Ashley McGuire, a senior fellow at the Catholic Association. And Ashley, you comment on pop culture all the time from a Catholic perspective. You're very active on social media. Facebook says they want to be inclusive. How do you see this?
Well, the first thing I would say is that the idea that Facebook was not already inclusive or a place where people could genuinely express themselves seems a little disingenuous. Anybody can join Facebook, and you can basically say anything you want as long as it's not offensive. So I find that a little bit strange, and if anything, I think the idea of adding 50 new categories of gender is only going to confuse people even more. If the idea is further clarity or cohesion, I just don't think it's going to achieve that effect.
So many young people are on Facebook. They are being influenced by what Facebook and these other social media sites are doing. What kind of a long-term impact do you think this will have on the way young people see themselves and others?
Well, I think that's a really good question, and I think that something like this is a reminder to us that politics and the outside world are very much intertwined with culture and pop culture, and I think especially this is a call to parents to be ever mindful of what their children are doing, because think of the effect for a 10-year-old who goes on and sees that their friend is transgender or gender fluid. I mean, that's confusing and damaging in many ways, I think, especially for people who are in a vulnerable stage of their lives.
I can't imagine 50 gender designations or what they mean. Is there any kind of definition that Facebook is putting out for these different designations?
Not that I saw. I think the only thing that Facebook is trying to do really is to probably appease a lot of pressure that they've had on them to be politically correct, which apparently means 50+ different types of gender.
Where is the pressure coming from? I can't imagine that it's coming from mainstream America.
No, it's not. I saw that there was a press release, or actually Facebook's own press release included a quote from somebody at GLAAD. So I think it's coming from outside activist groups that are really actively working to deconstruct any firm understanding of gender as being male and female.
If people don't like this, is there anything we can do about it?
I think really the only thing that you can do is, really the only option is for parents to control how much their children are using the internet, or to have conversations with them about this and maybe use this as an opportunity to explain to them that our culture has turned gender and what male and female really means completely upside down. But at the end of the day, Facebook is free to offer as many gender options as it likes.
How can we as Catholic witness to the truth that God created man, male, and female?
Well, I think there's many ways. I think the first one of them is to live joyfully in whatever your vocation is, and I think a lot of young people are already doing that, and I think they're doing it very well with social media. So I think we just need to stay engaged and active in that same marketplace and not run away or back out, but engage in a positive and instructive way.
Ashley McGuire with the Catholic Association, thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Well, finally tonight we bring you the story of an inspiring guy who isn't letting life's challenges get in the way of his game. A blind, mentally impaired man from Springfield, Missouri is getting national attention after banking a three-point shot during halftime of a college basketball game.
If I do my best, then everything else will be okay.
54-year-old Michael Quinn's shot got fans cheering at the College of the Ozarks game on Saturday. Quinn practices three-point shots using the voice of someone standing below the basket to guide him to the basket.
I like basketball so much.
A local television station reports that Quinn had a series of falls starting about 6 years ago. That caused him to go blind and hindered his mental capacity. He joined Champion Athletes of the Ozarks, which helps disabled people participate in sports.
We work with individuals with all types of disabilities.
What an inspiration. Makes a tough day feel like a walk in the park. We thank you for being with us tonight. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. You can catch our entire program or any part of it on EWTN's YouTube page. I'm Brian Patrick for all of us here at EWTN News Nightly. Thank you for watching tonight. Good night and God bless you.
St. Augustine said, "The world is a book, and those who do not travel read only one page." I'm Diana Von Glahn, and I love to travel and to learn about the different cultures around the world. Welcome to the Mediterranean Sea. But more than anything, I love my faith, and I try to incorporate it into everything I do, including travel. Life is a pilgrimage. 1, 2, 3. All right! And on my pilgrimage, I want to walk foreign streets, make new friends,